about 30 feet.
Okay, this is Delta Dive 6295. We're off Point Sore. The date is Saturday, 21 August 2004. This is Bob and Chris. Oh wow, we've landed in high profile rocky area. We're on fairly coarse sand at the moment, boulders. See lingcod, seen flavitus on the way down, rosies, pygmies. This should just be an excellent dive. We've got good visibility.
Roger, we'll start in just a minute. Okay, they're ready for us to start one.
There's a nice copper, and there's another nice copper. Let me get positioned. Anytime, Chris, anytime.
Okay, let me get
Oh, man. Nice yellowtail, nice rosy.
starting transect now, heading 1.
Okay, starting transect with a large boulder in the background. There's a nice canary just above us of 40, flavitus of 45, a rosy of above the lasers of, it's a nice big rosy. That was over 20. The rosy just above the lasers, large boulders. We're over coarse sand. It's a rosy on top, the rock at 20. Boulders, boulders, boulders surrounded by sand. Nice coarse sand. This sort of sand should see sand dabs on or flatfish on. Isolated rocks. Sand wave. There's a rosy of 20 just inside the lasers. Nice boulder. Small rockfish, plain rockfish just below that sponge of 100. There's another small rockfish. A rosy of 20 and some young of the year. More young of the year. There's an agonid just below us. There's a little isolinus on the sand. That appears to be a goby, and it was a goby. There's another agonid. Sand coming into some rock. Some young of the year rockfishes. Goby on the sand, another goby. Isolated rock, another goby. Another goby just the base of those rocks. Some isolated rock. Now we're coming into what appears to be a reef system. Rosy below us of 20. Some young of the year out in the distance and a rosy below us. Okay, just hundreds of small, these are probably 50 millimeter, 50 to 60 millimeter fish. A number of these are, they may all well be young of the year and 1 year old Wilsoni. Large rock wall. We're going upslope here. That appears to be a Serenoides of 40 right next to us. And off in the distance I see what also appear to be a number of Serenoides. They're off transect. Going right over the top of this reef. Okay, a big rock wall off our starboard. Nice habitat. You'd expect to see some rosies and some of these more benthic rockfishes back in these cracks and crevices, but okay, there's something down there. There's a sea bass stomus below us. I'm looking down on it of just less than 20. Okay, here's some young of the year, and these appear to be Wilsonii. There's one fish that's maybe 100, and a half a dozen that were small, 50 size. More of these things, several hundred here. Sea bass, that's a rosy of just less than 20, and a number of Wilsonii. More of these little fish. These all appear to be Wilsonii, and these 50 to 75. Okay, there's a rosy.
Roger, depth is 69 meters. 69.
Both just under 200, and then all these small fish. And again, these all appear to be Wilsonii, and there's a rosy of just under 20. Right on the top of this reef. Large number of encrusting invertebrates. Sponges off in the distance. Just hundreds of these small Wilsonii. They're anywhere from 50 to maybe 125. Flavitus just dropped past us. Okay, that appeared to be a starry of about 250, and these are Flavitus coming in. A rosy on the rock, swimming down now of 20. A couple Hopkins-eye above it, up in the water column. This is the first Hopkins I've seen so far. Okay, two Flavitus. Here's a little rosy just off the top of the reef of just less than 20. Flavitus. There's a rosy of 20, and a little brown fish. I just couldn't see it. Beautiful rock. It's a rosy, about a meter off the rock, above the rock. And all these juvenile Wilsonii pygmies. There's a starry below us. Lingcod just out in the distance. Okay, we're over a sand channel at the moment. Those Wilsonii must provide a tremendous forage base for the lings, yellowtails, all these larger rockfishes. A very coarse sand. Sand and small pebbles. Sort of a yellowish rockfish just over the sand. It could have been constellatus, but I would just call it a juvenile rockfish at this point. I didn't get the best look at it. There's a little, probably Icelinus tenuis on the sand. Okay, we're coming in some rock. Okay, again, hundreds of those young of the year. There's a rosy, two nice large big flavitus next to us. Both of those are about 50. Okay, I don't know what that. There's a rosy going upslope. Lots of habitat here. Crevices, fractures, undercuts. Rosy above us of a little over 20. It's a rosy of just under 20. Nice white sponges. Okay, there's a little sea bass stomus of 100. Again, young of the year and maybe 1 year old. Wilson eye. Red gorgonian on the tops of these things, white sponges. There's sea bass stomus with the head sticking out of that sponge. High relief rock and a rosy coming at us. Oh wow, there's some sort of cotted on there. I just don't know. Are we still on transect, Chris?
No, we just ended.
That ended with that cotted.
190.
Oh, here's a painted greenling just below us, off transect. Just exceptional habitat. There's another painted greenling. I certainly would not be surprised to see China rockfish or quillback in this type of habitat. This just looks perfect for them. I'm a little bit surprised at the number of, the paucity of lingcod we've seen so far. Okay, there's another one of those little brown rockfishes. I just can't, rosy. These small things, for the most part, are Sebastes wilsoni. You get close enough and you can see that red stripe developing on their flank. Lots of relief. We're over a channel now, boulder sand channel, probably 20 feet below us. Flavitus in the water. Again, I'm looking down 20 feet or so. Good visibility. A little bit of particulate matter in the water, so at distance, some of the fishes are a little hazy. Okay, there's a nice, these are big yellowtail. These are close to 50 millimeter, 50 centimeter. Now we're over a bunch of Hopkins eye, a small school of Hopkins eye, Lophogorgia. Just beautiful complex habitat. Cracks, crevices, fissures. See, there's a nice copper below us. Rosy. Hopkins eye. Big vermilion. Get him on that camera. That's 50 centimeter vermilion. There's another vermilion.
ready, Bob?
Anytime. Okay, we're ready
Roger
for
that. Depth is 72 meters. Bottom type's the same. Starting transect now.
72 meters, transect 2. It's a high-profile rocky reef with a lot of encrusting invertebrates. Lophogorgia again, lots of sponges.
The current is out of the east again today, so starting at the west end of the boxes would be a good idea.
Okay, very high profile rock. High profile complex rock, boulders at the base. There's a Hopkins eye in the water column. Okay, we appear to be going between systems here with boulders below us. A little bit of sand. The sea bass stomas just below us. There's a rathbunella that's down on the bottom. That's not on transect. Salmon isolated rock. Rosy 20. Now we're over sand. Goby on the sand.
No, it's
Another
not
goby.
too strong right now.
Young of the year rockfishes. These may be something different. You can't see them well enough to pick up the red stripe. They were young of the year. Okay, coarse sand. Not quite as coarse as before. It's a little finer, but it's sand. Sand wave. There's a Sithorichthys of 150. Another Sithorichthys of 100. There's a little agonid of 150. Okay, a little bit of shell hash in the troughs. Coarse sand. Another little agonid. Oh, there's a rathbunella right on the sand. That was about 150. Okay, couple of rockfish in the water column. The upper one was a little sea bass stomas. There's a rosy of 20. Goby on the sand. Now we're moving into rock and boulders. Here are these juvenile and young Wilsoni. There's a rosy of 20. Okay, here's the Serenoides right next to us of about 30. Nice silver sides. There's a starry back underneath that cave. It's a big starry. That's 30 plus. Rosy out on the rock just above the lasers of slightly over 20. It's a little plain red thing down there. What? Okay, rosy. These are flavitus. 3 or 4 flavitus in there with a rosy on the bottom. Okay, a little starry just dove in that cave. A little over 20. Flavitus above us. Now we're sort of on flat rock bottom. There's rosy and some sea bass stomas. There's a starry of 30. White sponges. Rather flat rock compared to the high profile rock we've been going through. Okay, a little rosy of less than 20 and a starry of 30. White sponges. Sea bass stomas just above the lasers. That's pretty far out, and then probably was a rosy.
75 meters, 7.5, still in high relief rock.
Okay, these are all pygmies with a few sea bass stomas below us. Back on very coarse sand. Rosy about a half a meter off the bottom. So rosy above the lasers. And then some small sea bass stomas, but a number of these wilsoni. That looked to be a starry underneath that rock. Okay, now we're against a rock face. And that's a small rosy of maybe 150. Wilsoni on the bottom. Flavitus came through here. Appeared to be a starry that went around the corner into that crack. That was probably 30. Okay. Rosy of 20, maybe 225. Flavitus above us, just less than 30. Another Flavitus. Little Flavitus. There's a 30 and a 40 centimeter Flavitus. Starry on the rock. Rosy just inside the lasers. Moving back onto sand, large sand waves. Again, very coarse sand. Okay. Big vermilion below us. It's probably a 50. Small Flavitus just next to the sub of 30. Rosies below us. Okay, there's a Constellatus boom right there of 250. Flavitus up in the water column. Flavitus. There's a nice Flavitus with flecking next to us. A big Flavitus off there of 40 plus. Flavitus coming into us. Rosy on the rock. There's a vermilion right in the lasers. Ling, nice ling of 60. The rosy on the rock, and just before that a starry going into a crevice. Okay, this is not high profile, very rocky, but with ledges and Flavitus, rosy in the distance. Lots of nice Flavitus. These are all Flavitus that are around us at the moment. Appear to be swimming with us. Okay, there's one of those little plain brown rockfishes with large eyes. Rosies on the bottom, Wilsoni, there's a starry, Hopkins eye. higher up in the water column. Okay, Flavitus below us. There's a line of 40 right on the rock. Rosy, Flavitus.
Roger, end of transect.
Ooh, these are Wilsoni, Flavitus. That ends the transect. That school of Wilsoni off in the distance. Those are adult Wilsoni. Ooh, what's this? What's this? Oh. Well, it just turned out to be a regular Rosy, but... You must have a lot of fish up there with you, Chris.
Yeah, they're not tightly packed, but they're around.
There's a nice ovalis. She's going to come take a look at us. There's another nice ovalis. Just one over the other. Nice caudal fin with that narrow caudal peduncle. Boccaccio below us. There's a nice 80 centimeter lingcod below us.
Roger, head 300 off the bottom.
What do we got for depth, Chris?
We've been at about around 75 meters most of the transects.
Okay. The way this habitat looks, I really expect to see a China. We might not, but it just looks like the sort of place we should find one. Boccaccio. Big Flavitus. Rosies. How's the current today?
There's a little current, the same as yesterday out of the east, but it's not very strong right now. I'm guessing it kind of varies in its strength throughout the day or something. Certainly been strong at times. right now, just running us down current away.
So we're sort of going downhill, then come back into it, huh?
Right.
Yeah. That fishing line, or could you tell? I didn't get a good look at it. Could have been something else. There's some long line gear down there.
There's some long line gear here. Roger.
So we're going to reverse our course here?
Yep, we get turned around here.
Okay. We should go right over that if we do. Look at all these Boccaccio. Whoa.
Depth is 80 meters, 80.
And a nice
we're
canary.
In an area of boulders and rock outcrop.
Copper.
And interspersed sand.
Vermilion.
Starting transect now, heading 130.
Okay, we're starting transect. We're in a school of Boccaccio. That's a vermilion, flavitus, Boccaccio. There's a yellow eye going downhill, a rosy on the bottom. There's a Serenoides, Boccaccio. These are all big fish. They're 40, 50, 60 centimeter fish. There's another Seabastomus inside that sponge. Those appear to be rosies, but okay, there's a long line gear that Chris just called up a second ago. Okay, a little Seabastomus up in the water column and rosies, and Wilsoni, rosy off in the distance. There's a nice, probably gravid female of 150. Wilsoni. Small Hopkins eye. Okay, complex rock habitat. This is boulders at the base of some of these larger reef systems. Bedrock here. Young of the year. Rockfishes. Okay, some small Seabastomas. There's another yellow eye. And a rosy yellow eye was in excess of 40. Okay, rosy Hopkins eye. And Wilson eye. Rosy in with the Wilson eye. Rosy right in front of us of 20. Rosy rosy just off the bottom. Now we're over sand. Again, this coarse sand.
There's some long line gear here.
Going right over the long line. That should show well on the video. Okay, rocky reef outcrop just off to our starboard, right at the base of this. Rosy up on the face, nice rathbunella up there. Okay, a rosy at the base. Sand channel. Again, this rocky outcropping. Rosy at 20, just off the bottom. Nice face sponge of rosy of 20, higher up in the water column. Encrusting sponges are little Wilsoni. There's one of those plain brown jobs. I wish copper just behind us. And a Flavitus of 40 crossing in front of us, and then Hopkins eye. There's a starry of 250 just below us, and a rosy of 20. Nice vermilion of 40 plus. Okay, moving slightly upslope, large boulders, bedrock. It's hard to tell what this is, but this has the appearance of granitic rock. There's a Hopkins eye of maybe 125 just in front of us. Seabastomas on the wall of 20. Okay, nice sponges, encrusting sponges.
Roger, depth is 75 meters, 7.5, high relief rock.
That appears to be a rosy of 20. Okay. There was a rosy sitting on that sponge, and then one of those little yellow, there's a yellow eye right next to us, about 30, but one of those little yellow juveniles next to that sponge. Starry of 30, rosy at 20, just high profile convoluted rock with a lot of encrusting invertebrates. Little sebastes there. There's a vermilion of 40 next to us. Two small sebastomas of 100. Starry below us of 30. Young of the year rockfish just above the lasers, and a starry just inside the lasers. Lots of sponges of all sorts here. I think I just passed a ling. Didn't get a good look at it. Should show on the, at least on the handheld. There's small rosy of 125, rosy at 20, Flavitus coarse sand. Now back on rock. Lots Lots of encrusting sponges of all types here. Rosy below us of 20. These walls just drop off. There's a rosy up in the water column of 20. And another rosy of about 20. These sponges really dominate the landscape. Boulders at the bottom of that drop off. Another rosy sand channel. Rosy. Now we're over coarse, very coarse sand. Gobies on the sand. Young of the year rockfish, plain colored rockfish. There's a hydrolagus above us, and a rosy about a meter off the bottom back and rock. There's one of those plain, I really like to look at that, plain brown rockfish, and they're not Hopkins eye. They're narrow-bodied, just don't know what they are. Okay, a rock face.
There's a net here.
Okay, we're just going over old net. Seabastomus of some sort. There's a Seabastomus with the head buried. Lots of sponges again on this rock. A rosy of 20. And a constellatus of 25. And Wilsoni. Nice, mature Wilsoni. Okay, these are Hopkins eye. And that plain is Hopkins, that plain brown rockfish. There's a constellatus of 25. Okay, steep wall here. I don't know if that's Coronactus, but and a Boccaccio of 50. What in the hell? Oh, a nice yellow eye back there of 60. Now we're into Hopkins eye, a mixture of Hopkins eye and Wilsoni. Same sort of layering with the Hopkins eye on top. That is Coronactus.
Roger, end of transect. Depth
That ends our transect
meters,
there.
7.5. We're in high relief rock.
Very high relief rock. Just all sorts of sponges. Boccaccio.
Roger, standing by.
We're going to run another one here, or we're going to run, Chris?
We're going up, I guess.
We're going up?
Yep, in a minute.
Okay, there's more long line gear.
Yeah. There's some long line gear here.
What, do we run 3 transects?
Yeah, I guess they said they were going to shorten up the dives.
Okay, that's fine, that's
Try to
fine.
get a few extra ones.
That is fine. Can we get a picture if we see something great?
Sure, hold on.
If you see something we come into, I mean, it's just...
There's a nice fish and a sponge down there. Let's see if I can circle back around and get mine.
One good thing, we don't have to worry about changing tapes, huh?
Yeah.
Ready if we see something.
Yeah, there's a fish and a sponge down there. It's kind of neat looking. I'll see if I can get by it. It's kind of in a corner. I'll be able to get next to it. It's going to be coming up here in a minute on the right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get too close to it, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
there it is, if you can zoom in on it.
I see the head. That looks like he killed greenling. That is what that is. Here's a little fish with this damn thing. Will get higher up for me.
Roger, coming up.
How about that Rosie right there? And just a bite.
I guess we're going to dive on some...
Go straight, it's just straight ahead. Maybe we'll run into the school. I'll just shoot him if we do. Damn thing's above.
So are you
There,
gonna...
look at that long line next to us.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, that's the luck of the draw. Fish just wouldn't come to us. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, huh?
So are you going to be out when they are diving on that some of that active long line with Mary?
I think so.
I think you'll find that really interesting.
Okay.
We've done that before. It's quite a sight to see those fish hanging on the line. Really amazing. We've done that quite a bit up in Alaska. Years. Kind of fun.
Okay. I can get that for you, Chris, unless you can do that. You got it? Okay. Close this door.
Yeah, might as well.
That was really amazing habitat.
Yeah.
There were some big fish there.
50 meters, 50. So where all this rockfish is now off limits, where does the fish in the grocery store coming from?
The pardon?
Like the rockfish you buy at the grocery store, where does that stuff come out of? Alaska mostly?
Well, yeah, it can't. Not much of it comes from California, that's for sure anymore. You notice how much the price has gone up?
I don't buy a lot of fresh fish. I mean, I should eat more fish, but...
well, if you did, you'd really notice the difference in price.
yeah.
I mean, stuff we used to pay $2.50 for, $2.79 is now $6.79 a pound.
Holy cow. Yeah, see, I order at restaurants and stuff, but I've never been much of a fish cooker at home. 30 meters, 30.
Okay. Okay, yeah, well, 3 transects you don't have to switch tapes. That's one advantage. You get 3. That's about what you get off a tape, isn't it?
We had 20 minutes left on the tapes. Even if we'd done a fourth, we probably would have made it.
All right. Well, we get everybody in the water this way. That's fine. To really photograph these things, you need an extra 10-15 minutes, don't you?
Yeah, you got to spend time,
Or end up like where we just started, that one transect. Turn it off. Don't you?
Yeah, you got to spend time.